Hey, this is Ben Jackson here, and today you and I are going to be diving seriously deep into story appeal and mystery in advertising, and how a lot of the greats like David Ogilvy here have introduced it into their ads over the years in order to spike interest and pull in the curious, to have them read and watch more. So we're going to go into 3 different campaigns that I believe have used this impeccably over the years. The first being the Dos Equis campaign, the most interesting man in the world, which made us want to live our lives with more adventure and live our lives more interestingly. The second being the Halfaway shirt campaign, which was an Ogilvy campaign that ran for 25 years that really all it had going for it was an interesting picture. This man with an eye patch, and the copy would sell the actual shirts, but the eye patch would catch your attention. That is story appeal. And the third being the Marlboro Man, which turned filtered cigarettes, which was seen as a very feminine product, into a very masculine product, which had a broader market at that point.
You don't see many wild stallions anymore. He's one of the last of a wild and very singular breed. Come to where the flavor is. Come to Marlboro country.
So we'll talk about why all 3 of these campaigns are similar. We'll talk about why I think they work. And that being said, I'd like to thank you for watching this video today, and I hope you enjoy it. So without further ado, let's crack into it.
First, LSMFT. Lucky Strike means fine tobacco. And then that fine, good-tasting tobacco is toasted. It's toasted to taste even better, cleaner, fresher, smoother. So light up a Lucky. You'll say it's the best-tasting cigarette you ever smoked.
For the taste that you like, light up a Lucky Strike.
Right now.
Light up a Lucky. It's light up time.
Happiness.
Julie London sings the Marlboro song.
Where there's a man, there's a Marlboro. You like the flavor of a Marlboro. Good filter, good flavor, good mild smoke. Make yours the filter made by Marlboro. Marlboro. Filter, flavor, flip-top box.
Now, our next regularly scheduled program.
The look of love is in your eyes. The look.
So now we're going to go into why the Dos Equis campaign, the most interesting man in the world, was so incredibly successful. And I'm going to start off with a quote by the agency who created the ad, RSCG. Here is a man rich in story and experiences, much the way his audience hopes to be in the future. Rather than an embodiment of the brand, the most interesting man in the world is a voluntary brand spokesman. He and Dos Equis share a point of view on life that it should be lived interestingly.
If he were to pat you on the back, you would list it on your resume. Both sides of his pillow are cool. When in Rome, they do as he does. He is the most interesting man in the world. In a past life, he was himself. If opportunity knocks and he's not home, opportunity waits. He gave his father the talk. He is the most interesting man in the world.
I don't always drink beer.
His fortune cookies simply read, "Congratulations." Skinny dipping was his idea. He can slam a revolving door. He is the most interesting man in the world.
I don't always drink beer.
He is the life of parties he has never attended. If he were to punch you in the face, you would have to fight off the strong urge to thank him. Sharks have a week dedicated to him. He is the most interesting man in the world.
I don't always drink beer.
He has inside jokes with complete strangers. Cuba imports cigars from him. Mosquitoes refuse to bite him, purely out of respect. He is the most interesting man in the world. He wouldn't be afraid to show his feminine side, if he had one. His mother has a tattoo that reads, "Son." At museums, he's allowed to touch the art. He is the most interesting man in the world. The last time he flirted with danger, danger got clingy. He once received a standing ovation from a juror's box. His thank you cards have prompted your welcome cards. He is the most interesting man in the world.
I don't always drink beer.
His small talk has altered foreign policy. He once ran a marathon because it was on his way. Sasquatch has taken a photograph of him. He is the most interesting man in the world.
I don't always drink beer.
His words carry weight that would break a less interesting man's jaw. He's won trophies for his game face alone. He bowls overhand. He is the most interesting man in the world.
I don't always drink beer. But when I do, I prefer Dos Equis. Stay thirsty, my friends.
I believe one of the reasons the most interesting man in the world is so interesting is because every single thing he does is with complete and utter confidence, and it is flawless. Every single thing is interesting about it. Every single thing he does is better than you would do it. He's an old man, yet you want to be like him because he's full of youthful life. He's the kind of guy that everyone aspires to be later in life when they've lived that interesting life. And so at any point in time, this man could be playing golf with the Dalai Lama or a high-stakes poker game with the president of some country, or he could be enjoying his time with some beautiful women, reminiscing on old stories and telling them. Because every single day of his life is a new adventure, as everyone should live their life. And if you're living that cubicle lifestyle, this is obviously very appealing. And that alone is what makes, to me, the campaign so successful. And the copy of the ad is obviously very, very good. But it's not just the only thing that sells it. It's adventure, it's mystery, it's story appeal.
I told you, I don't always drink beer.
So next we're going to talk about the Halfaway shirt, which was a campaign done by David Ogilvy. And it ran for about 25 years. And David Ogilvy talks a lot in his book about how the measurement of success of an ad is how long it lasts, and as well as if it works in print. So you've got something that worked in print for a very, very long time. 25 years the campaign ran for. And I want to talk to you now about why the campaign, I think, was so successful and how David Ogilvy kind of came about the Halfaway shirt idea. So he talks in his book about how he read a book called Attention and Interest Factors in Advertising, I think by Rudolf Fleisch, I think. And the interesting concept that Rudolph picks up in this book is story appeal. And I guess you would attribute it to the modern day, or I guess the old school, clickbait. And what it is a picture appeal, an interest factor in a picture that catches your eye.
Were hired by the Halfaway Company in Waterville, Maine. So we started advertising Halfaway shirts, and we did the advertising for about 20 years, and it never changed a word we wrote. And this is the first ad, The Man in the Eye Patch. Here's where research came in handy. I'd read a book called Attention and Interest Factors in Advertising by Hal Rudolph, who'd been the research director in the wonderful Getchell agency. And he'd got a factor which he called story appeal in picture. And he showed that the more story appeal there was in a picture, in a photograph, the more people would look at your ad. So I wanted to do an ad for these Hathaway shirts. I wanted to find this magic ingredient of story appeal. So after dinner one night at home, I sat down, wrote 18 ideas for this Hathaway advertising for the story appeal element. The 18th was the eye patch, and that was the one we used. And that lasted for 19 years, that campaign. Because it's pretty good advertising apart from the eye patch. The copy is very good. It's all about the product. We don't mess around. And it follows all the things I think you should do. And, for example, the name of the brand name is in every headline. It's a good campaign. It also only ran in New Yorker, but it was really the Hathaway campaign which rescued Ogilvy and Mather from obscurity.
Come to where the flavor is. Come to Marlboro country.
So next we're going to talk about the Marlboro Man campaign, which was a campaign that came about in the mid-60s. And if you really want to understand Marlboro cigarettes, you have to look back at filtered cigarettes in a whole and think to yourself, okay, it's 1965 and I'm a man and I smoke cigarettes. And I smoke unfiltered cigarettes. Now this product comes along, Marlboro cigarettes, they're filtered cigarettes. And back then you have to understand that filtered cigarettes were seen as kind of like a girly product, a very feminine product, because they weren't tough. There was something in between you and the cigarette, and it wasn't, obviously it's a healthier product, we all know that, but it wasn't as manly and it wasn't as masculine. So the next thing that they decided to do, Marlboro did, was enlist, obviously, an advertising agency, and the agency that took over decided, okay, how are we going to make filtered cigarettes incredibly masculine and change the conversation about them? In the same way that I talked about how an Audi campaign in my previous video changed the conversation about electric cars, this changes the conversation about filtered cigarettes. So back then they decided they were going to come up with the Marlboro Man, and the Marlboro Man was a very masculine character. He was interesting in that he was very mysterious. He was confident in everything that he did. And he appeared in many different forms, but the most common form was a cowboy. And obviously that is a cultural icon in American film and a cultural icon really in just American culture. And so one of the things that the Marlboro Man stood for was that everything was natural and everything was beautiful and everything came to him naturally. And that is sheer and utter confidence, as well as advertising the brand. He was not only a brand spokesman, he was the embodiment of the brand. And we talked about that difference between Marlboro Man and the Dos Equis Man, the Dos Equis Man being the most interesting man in the world, being a voluntary brand spokesman, and the Marlboro Man being a hardcore brand spokesman. And that's a slight distinction, a slight difference, but it is very interesting to think about. So I also want to thank you for joining in on this video today. I hope it's been interesting for you, and I'd really like to sum it up. We're sitting out here, it's getting kind of dark at my house, Wilmington, North Carolina on the Intercoastal. And I want to thank you. I hope you've enjoyed the video today. It's a little bit of a shorter one, and I hope that you get a little bit of value from it, whether you're a copywriter or a creative director or somebody in advertising. I'm looking to get into advertising myself here pretty soon, and I'm going to school for it. And I just want to thank you. I think that's it. Peace.